Let's say I have Walter. Let's say Walter is overly socializing. He's hanging out, taking longer breaks or whatever, because he wants to hang out with his friends, or when he's supposed to be productive, he's actually talking to his teammates or maybe his family members or something like that. I would say something like, hey, Walter, I just wanted you to know that I was taking a look at your numbers and I noticed that they are not quite where they need to be. I wanted to talk to you about that. Can you tell me what's going on with that? And in that, I already could potentially know that the problem is over socialization, but I'm trying to see if he knows that this is what the problem is. Depending on his response, if he says, oh, I wasn't as focused. If he acknowledges that it's over socialization, then I'm just going to say, hey, I get it. I like to work with people that I enjoy getting along with as well. So I don't mind you talking to your coworkers and socializing with them at the appropriate time, but you do not want to allow this to affect your performance, because I have this saying, I was like, then you're going to be on my radar. I don't want you on my radar, because when you're on my radar, then I have to keep an eye on you. And listen, I trust you to be able to do your work. So can you please work on this to make sure that you are up to production? And then we're going to next talk through what the action plan is going to look like. In 2 weeks, we're going to come back together and we're going to meet and we're going to look at where your performance is. And what we want to do is see it increasing. And if it's up to where it needs to be, then great. Just make sure that you keep doing what you're doing to make sure that you're meeting the performance expectations. If it's not where it needs to be, then we'll talk about if there are any additional adjustments that need to take place. And if at that point, maybe I need to sit next to you and monitor kind of what you're doing so I can maybe make some suggestions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I really don't want to have to do that if we don't need to. So go ahead and try to do whatever you can to get your numbers up in an ethical way. Do whatever you can to get your numbers up. Okay. How's that sound? So that's going to be the conversation. And you see, I didn't yell. I didn't fuss. I didn't, I'm having a one-on-one personal conversation with a person. And that makes it way, way, way more palatable. Way, way, way more palatable. Now, let's say Walter does not know that it's his over-socialization that is getting in the way. Okay. So, hey, Walter, I noticed that your numbers are not quite where they need to be. Do you know why? And if he's just like, oh, no, I'm working as hard as I can and I can't work any harder than I'm already doing. And at this point, depending on what I know about him, if he seems to be a person who lacks self-awareness, I may immediately go to, okay, well, then let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and schedule some side-by-sides where I am able to sit next to you and watch kind of what you're doing myself, or maybe someone else who works under me but is above him. Let's get somebody to sit next to you so we can kind of see if there's some ways that we can help you become more proficient at what you're doing. Which people don't like being micromanaged. I don't like micromanaging people, but if he seems to lack this awareness, he may need to be micromanaged. And during that time, because what I'm looking for is the evidence of when somebody's next to him, he's more productive. And make sure whoever's next to him doesn't get pulled into the extra socialization too, right? And so with that, then you have something to compare and you can say, okay, so, over this period of time, we saw that your production went down, but we noticed that when someone was sitting next to you, it seems like you were fine. So I think that, if you keep doing what you're doing, what you did over these last 2 days, last week or whatever, then your production is going to get to where it needs to be. Okay. That's one way to address it. If you want to, you could also address the actual socialization, over socialization, just direct out and say, hey, I noticed your production isn't quite where it needs to be, but I'm going to say it seems to be like you're spending a lot of time talking to some of your coworkers. And let me tell you what, they might spend time talking to you, but they're actually meeting their numbers. And I need you to meet your numbers. Like, I want you to meet your numbers. And then I'm going to talk to him about what his long-term goals are. And if his long-term goals are to be at this company, then it's like, okay, I want you to be here long-term. I want to see you be successful. So I want you to work on trying to ensure that you're focused on getting the work done. And then during your break, during lunchtime, go hang out with people after work, to your heart content. But while you're here, I need you to focus because I want you to be successful long-term. So see how I'm addressing the person. And yes, I address the behavior, but I'm also addressing the person. I'm digging deeper. I'm making a connection, letting him know that I want him to win. And I can tell you with the toughest people I've had, and I've had some tough people, that always wins. That always wins. Unless it's a manipulative person. The only time I've had problems really long-term were with manipulative people. And I think it was like 3 I can count on my hand out of all the 15 years that I've been leading, like 3. Once I learned how to do this, so it made me successful with that.